Good morning, everyone. All right, today we're going to be talking about how to remove white backgrounds off of images in Photoshop. And I wanted to start over here on the stock photo site because, well, this is where we get a lot of our images, right? And I wanted to show you kind of what to look for, what to grab, and then we'll start with a good image. And a lot of us don't actually get to choose what image we work with, but let's just start from the ideal situation. So over here, I was just looking at pictures of puppies to grab. And this first one is a really good image to do a select on, where I know I'm going to have a different background because it is a lot of contrast, right? We got white and black, so it's very deep contrast. But we're also, because we don't always have the perfect image, we're going to hop over here and we're going to look at this other image where there's lots of hair. It's still a pretty good contrast, but not so much on the bottom where we've got like a light gray on top of a white. So I wanted to grab both of these images because I wanted to show you the differences that you can do in either doing like a quick select or doing a full mask to actually get rid of that white background in Photoshop. So let's go ahead and grab our images. And by the way, this image right, not this image, this site is called depositphotos.com. And I will put a link down in the description below. But basically, they are an awesome alternative to Getty's Images, iStock Photos, which is now owned by Getty's Images, and even like ThinkStock, also owned by Getty Images now. Basically, they are a great repository and you can get images for 80 cents. They run sales all the time. So you can always get awesome deals on stock photography here. So with that said, let's hop over to Photoshop. All right, so now we're over here in Photoshop. So let's start with our easy image first. It's not going to be perfect, but we're going to do a quick select. Over here, you select the magic wand tool and select just a general outline. And you can see you still got the shadow going on down here, but it's done a pretty decent job around all the edges. Plus, even though, he has fur, it's very matted fur, like it's very flat, so it's very smooth. So we could pretty much do a quick cutout here. I'll just go ahead and apply a mask to, let me inverse that, which is Control-Shift-I on a PC, and then hit, there you go. So you can see really clearly he's got very good defined lines, and this would be a good image to bring over with a quick cut, right? But you still have the shadow down here, and if you've got a darker color background, you're definitely going to see that. So we'll talk about how to get rid of that as well. So I'm going to start fresh here, drop my mask, and what we're going to do is we select just something to get started, right? Like you just kind of need a starting place with Photoshop. And then we're going to go up here and we're going to select and mask. That brings us into our masking interface. And you'll see right here, we've got the cutout because we selected everything but the puppy, right? So we want to switch that. Over down here, you're going to hit invert and it will inverse the image or inverse the selection. So now our puppy is selected, but we still want to get rid of the shadows. And he does have some fur, so we're going to want to bring that out too. But one of the tricks with Photoshop, which doesn't work awesome on very complicated hair, like hair that's maybe really frizzy, but would work okay in this situation, is coming up here and clicking refine hair. Now watch what happens when it gets done thinking. See, we've got a little bit, let me zoom in here so you can see, we now have little ridges where before we didn't have little ridges, right? And a little bit of that is just anti-aliasing, but we can click it again, refine hair, and you can click it again. You can keep selecting it and eventually it will kind of change out. And see, like down here now, we've got it. So it kind of helps there, but we still got this shadow. So let's go ahead and get rid of this shadow. You want to select this button right here, which if I can get it to mouse over, there we go, refine edge brush tool. And then there's just brush tool. So we're going to start with the brush tool and then we're going to go up to the refine edge. So go ahead and start with the brush tool. All right, so go ahead and select this, the bulk brush tool. We're going to hold down, I'm going to hold down my Alt key so I can get the inverse because I want to take away. But you can also get this by coming up here and actually clicking on the minus. I find it easier just to toggle. Just kind of get like a general, you don't have to get perfect, but we just want to get rid of the bulk excess because the more data you remove, data meaning this like gray area, the more data you remove from the image, the easier Photoshop has to actually going through and doing the automated tools like refining the hair, because it's not trying to make refining hair work with a whole bunch of like colored pixels on here. So if you get rid of a lot of the extra, you'll have a better chance at helping Photoshop do its job. All right, we're going to back out here and then we're going to go to our refine brush Zoom in just a little bit. All right, so now we kind of want to add in, so I'm leaving the plus on. And oh, see what happened there? It took too much, right? So you kind of want to watch what you're doing a little bit because you're going to have to come back and add your stuff back in. So start with the plus because we're going to go right here. It's going to look weird like you're drawing it back, but then you let it think for a second and it will pop it all off. But see, if we had left all that extra on there, it wouldn't be as good. And then you come down here and do the rest. And then down here. All right, and then we actually have a better, that other dog I showed you in the beginning, that's actually going to be a better example for hair. So, but we'll just kind of draw back in some of the space over here. Say Photoshop, hey, we actually wanted to keep the actual arm of the dog. All right, and then, oops, see right here, we got this white, or the blue popping through. We're going to go ahead and draw that back in. There we go. All right, and now how I'm zooming in and out like this is I'm just holding down my Alt key and using my scroll wheel on my mouse. There you go. All right, so I'm gonna leave these rough edges here because this is gonna get explained a little bit more in the next one, in the next dog, but now we've got it. So let's go ahead and click OK. All right, so when we come back, we have the marching ants, right? So what we wanna do is come over here and select our mask. There you go, right? And all that data is still there. It's just hidden behind the mask. So if you ever get through, like you've put something into another piece of artwork and you realize that, oh wait, this dog is missing an ear or some other random thing, right? You can go back in and adjust it in that space. So that is the high contrast dog. Let's go over and look at one that's got multiple fuzziness going on. So it's kind of the same process. So you want to do an overall, oops, helps if I'm on the correct layer. All right, so it's kind of the same process. You want to come over here and we're going to do like a general select. And you can see I'm cutting off pieces of his hair right here. Like I'll show you. We're cutting off pieces of his hair right here. And we don't want to do that. And then if we go down to his paws, we've got part of his feet are missing. So this is why this is a good image for an example because it doesn't work perfectly. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is select a mask. And then you're going to go back through and we're going to do invert again so we can see our puppers. And because my background is blue, it's really coming through. I highly suggest when you're doing this that you make your background a weird color, just because if you're doing it over a transparent grid, the transparent grid is white and black, and that can be difficult. So if you put a loud color on there, you'll definitely see it. So let's go ahead and hit invert again. And we're going to go down here. And the same thing as before, we're going to start with the block one, get our general images going. And then, let's see, we want this. And if you need to increase the size of your brush, you can just hit the bracket keys. There you go. Because your whole foot is missing, buddy. All right, come down here. And again, this is just giving Photoshop a rough place to start. There we go. Now with the broad stroke here, with the rough cut, you don't have to be awesome with it. And you can do these long strokes like I'm doing here to kind of select everything. I do not recommend doing that with the refined brush. With a refined brush, you want to do short, quick strokes, because if you don't, you're going to end up with, one, it's going to take your computer a longer time to process it, but then also you're going to end up with too much data in the selection, and Photoshop won't do as good of a job selecting the hair. All right, now we've got our general outline. We're almost done. There we go. All right, so we've got our general selection, right? It kind of looks like a sticker on the white background there. All right, so now we're gonna go to refine. And this is where we zoom in. And again, you can increase or decrease the size of your brush here. Don't go crazy on it, because remember, the more data in your selection or your stroke here, the more Photoshop has to process and the worse job it's gonna do. So, all right, so first things first, let's go ahead and select our hair. And I'm adding to the mask here. So it's a plus sign. There we go. You'll see some of this ghosting here. Again, that's Photoshop. I wanted to point out that you're only going to be able to be as good as your image. So like over here, you can see stuff. I mean, it's pixelated because I'm so zoomed in, but over here you have more detail. Over here, it's out of focus. So no matter how much I select over here, it's still going to be a little weird because it's not in focus. All right, now I'm getting into the complicated part because I have a whole bunch of whites against a white background, right? So here I'm just doing very small strokes because it's going to make it a lot easier for Photoshop to help me figure out where the edges are. All right, guys, so this is where we're at right now. It's not bad. It did take a little while. I think my timer says about 10 minutes to go through around all the edges and just do that tedious selection. And you can still see right here, like maybe that could be a little bit smoother. But generally, we have a pretty good outline right here. So then we're going to hit OK. And we have our marching ants here. Our dog is selected. So now we're going to go ahead and hit the mask button. And there we go. So see, we got like the fuzzies going on down here on the legs. And then remember I said over here about the being out of focus? You're not going to get that any better. I promise you that. It's not going to be any better than that because there's nothing you can do about it being out of focus. But over here where it is in focus, you can see all the individual hairs. Yeah, so this would go really good over a busier background. Now, before we leave this, and you should probably do this with all of your images, but the first thing we're going to do is go down to Sharpen and Smart Sharpen. And then I have two monitors, so this is going to be a little off screen. So this is what it looks like. And all I'm going to do, I'm trying to get mostly his face to come up, like pop a little bit more, right? So that's not sharpened. That is sharpened. All right, we want to go a little bit more. Because when you do this, watch what happens to the individual hairs, right? Like especially look at his nose right here. See the difference? And you can go way too overly, like that's too much, right? But you just want to bring it out a little bit. So I think that's pretty good. So again, the before and after. So we got his whiskers showing up now. And that makes the whole dog look so much better. So always sharpen your images, even if you get them from a stock photo site. You know, you're still going to have to sharpen them because the person who uploaded them may have not done that. So that's it for this, guys. If you have any questions, please do leave comments below. I do want to invite you to subscribe. I am almost to 1,000 subscribers, which is amazing. I can't believe it's been just like this amount of time and I'm almost at 1,000. So I would really appreciate it if you would help push me over as a thank you for this information. And yeah, take care, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.